All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Equilibrium. I'm your host, Bria, and this is our special women's health series. Today, I'm here with not Miss, today, I'm here with Michelle Siri. She is the executive director of the Women's Law Center of Maryland. Thank you for being here, Michelle.
Bria, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you, especially just in this climate and where we are today. I think this is going to be perfect. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I am an attorney by trade. I've been practicing in private practice. I was an assistant attorney general for the state of Maryland for many years. And then about 8 years ago, I came over and took over the Women's Law Center of Maryland. And we are a 50-year-old statewide nonprofit law firm. We provide free attorneys to survivors of domestic violence in family law matters, in protective order hearings, and immigration proceedings. And then we also do a whole host of advocacy, both at the legislative level, but also within the judicial system and the access to justice world on anything that can really disproportionately affect women. Economic security, physical safety, bodily autonomy. Those are kind of our three main pillars. But really anything that's going to disproportionately affect women in Maryland.
I love it. I love it. A lot of and very important work.
Thank you.
Tell me why are you passionate about women's rights?
Gosh, I mean, I've been an advocate really for as long as I can remember. I mean, I remember in seventh grade, you know, getting in an argument in a classroom about abortion rights. And I did my high school thesis on the application of a RICO statute, which is the Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organization. It's what's used to go after the mob, to go after anti-abortion protesters. And the best I can explain is, I'm a first generation Iranian American. My mother's from Iran, my father's American. They met there, and we actually had to flee, a fundamentalist regime and come and live in the States. When I was just an infant. I was born in the States, but we went back there and had to leave again. And I think that influenced my life a great deal. And my mother influenced my life a great deal to realize that, these rights that we have, we can never take for granted, especially when it comes to women's rights. And it's just so inherent in me. It's as essential as breathing, that I deserve the same rights and freedoms and opportunities as everybody else in this country. And so taking that to that advocacy level just was the next step in my life, I think.
Yeah, I would imagine that's probably one of the reasons why you became a lawyer.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
That and I like problem solving. I really think of being a lawyer as being a problem solver. And so, it doesn't always have to be litigation, but sometimes it will be. And time you can kind of take the issues and figure out a way to make them work for people, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm interested to know what you do on a day-to-day basis. I can imagine working, at the law center is pretty fascinating. Could you just kind of walk us through what you do?
Sure. I mean, if you ask my kids what I do, I email all day and I go to meetings. I email and go to
Right.
meetings all day long. And that is a lot of it, but
Yeah.
it's very cyclical. So, in the months of January through April, I'm going to be in Annapolis advocating on legislative issues. In the interim, which is all the months in between, I might be meeting with legislators. I've got a meeting in a couple weeks with a legislator to kind of talk about some issues that we're thinking of next year, or a lot of coalition building. So I'm active with the Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence. I'm on the Maryland Legislative Agenda for Women. We partner with the commissions for women. So I have meetings at the various bar associations. So a lot of those meetings actually are going to be with those other stakeholders and those other organizations that are kind of in the work that we do, in the fields that we do, working with them to make sure that we're not all in silos, to make sure that we are using all of our resources, because they're very limited. Our resources are very limited as a nonprofit. So then making sure that we're working together on these issues.
Okay. Now, now I want to know, which issue would you say that you're most proud of to work on?
Yeah, and I think it's maybe clear from what I was saying even earlier with when I was talking about my childhood, is it's reproductive rights. It's really something that has always been so important to me. I'm the former board president of Planned Parenthood of Maryland. I was very proud to testify on the constitutional amendment to enshrine the legislation that would have led to a constitutional amendment to enshrine Maryland's right to reproductive autonomy in our Constitution this past session. The Women's Law Center has always been very proud to partner with all of the other organizations and the providers and the folks on the ground doing that work. And I think that's something that's very near and dear to me. And on a personal level, too, reproductive rights is broader. It's not just abortion rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a couple of years ago, we were the lead advocacy group, and we worked on legislation that expanded insurance coverage for folks trying to get IVF coverage,
Mm-hmm.
to folks to not be limited just by their marital status.
Right.
And as the mom of two IVF babies, that was a really personal bill for me, and I felt really proud to be a part of it, because we would get these women calling who'd say, maybe they had been married once and then they got divorced, and they've been now with their partner for a very long time, and then they just didn't want to get married, but they wanted to have that baby. And having been in that position of, wanting to start a family and not being able to do it, and then having all of these barriers, it was really meaningful to me to be able to help remove at least one of those barriers for folks.
I can imagine. Okay. Wow. My next question is, you spoke about reproductive rights, and Roe versus Wade was recently overturned. Tell me where you were when you heard this news and how you're feeling.
So I was actually on the campaign trail. So I don't know if you know, like I had
Yes, I did.
an unsuccessful run for lieutenant governor of Maryland. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was splitting my time between the Women's Law Center and doing that work. But my reaction really would have been the same regardless of which hat I had on. And so I would say, it was a punch in the gut, but it was something that we knew was coming for a long time. I mean, since Trump was elected, I have been participating in calls with national organizations and other statewide organizations across the country, trying to plan out and think of what all the different variations would be when we knew that a case would finally get decided by the Supreme Court. Because it wasn't just the Dobbs case, there were about a dozen cases in the pipeline. So we knew it was just a matter of time before one of them had some impact. And given the makeup of the court, we knew that the decision would likely not be a good one. We didn't exactly know that it was going to go this far. This was our next to worst case scenario. Worst case scenario would have been an outright, abortion is in and of itself is unconstitutional anywhere. So this was our second worst case scenario, I think, of sending it all back to the states. But my first reaction that day, honestly, was thinking about, I have a lot of friends who are providers, like actual physicians who provide abortions, who run affiliates in states that now no longer have the right to abortion. And so these are people that have literally put their life on the line. They've received death threats. They've, have had to have all sorts of, security measures put into place just to be able to provide healthcare. And so my thoughts really immediately that day, I started texting those folks that I know that have been in this work and doing this work for a long time, and just saying, I'm with you. I'm so proud to know you, and, stay strong. We're going to, the other side had a 50-year game plan. They were in it for the long game. Right. And so we need to be willing to do the same. And so that was kind of my message to them, is I'm in it for the long game with you.
I can't imagine knowing someone that, so are those, your friends that you spoke about, what are they doing now? Are they just?
So, some of them are in states like Maryland. So they're just gearing up for the influx, which we're seeing, right? We're seeing an influx already. Some of them are in states. I've got a friend who's in, she covers multiple states. And so one of the states is now no longer, abortion's no longer legal. The other one, it still is. And so she's trying to, shift resources and respond to those folks in the other states, but by also staying strong and making sure she's reinforcing the laws that she has where she is. Yeah.
It's that's so scary.
Right. To wake up one morning and all of a sudden have less rights than you had the day before.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only, it's not just half the population, right? It's not just women. It's not just women in Maryland. It is everybody's reproductive autonomy. And it's such a slippery slope, because we know, it's not just abortion. From the day I joined Planned Parenthood's board, I remember that, not even before I joined the board, I remember them sitting me down and saying, it's not just abortion, right? It's contraception. It's bodily control. That's what folks are after. And so it's really terrifying to think that, one right is just gone, and then there's all these other ones that are now at risk.
I know. That's what scares me most. I want to get your take on this. So Biden just recently signed an executive order to protecting healthcare services like abortion and the contraceptives. Do you think that's going to have any impact? How does that work?
It is, it does a lot of things, and it's talking about the FDA and whether or not the states can decide that if mifepristone, for example, is part of the medicated abortion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if the FDA has approved that, does the federal law trump the, no, I don't like using that term anymore, but does the federal law supersede
Yeah.
the state laws, right? And so essentially what's happened is the Supreme Court was attempting to say that they were, oh, we're going to send this back to the states and each state can make up its own mind. And so that way it won't keep getting litigated and we can put an end to all of this. But really, they've just created all these other avenues. This is going to be litigated for a very long time. And we're
Mm-hmm.
already seeing some courts, some states, I think Nebraska just the other day, I think it was Nebraska, came out and their judiciary was like, nope, this is this, the ban that they've put in place against abortion here is not constitutional in our state because it's putting women's lives at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I do think it's really important that President Biden and the FDA and the Department of Health and Human Services, that they're taking these positions, even if they don't necessarily have the breadth of what we want. It's important that it's coming from the top down, and that we can at least have some leadership there, and that we need to keep it's there's not going to be one silver bullet to any of this, right? There's not going to be one solution, so we need those smaller steps as we're working
Mm-hmm.
on all the bigger steps.
Definitely. I'm still floored by it, and it's hard to even talk about it most of the time. But I want to know, what other issues is the Women's Law Center tackling?
Yeah, so like I said in the beginning, it's physical safety, it's economic security, and it's bodily autonomy, and the three are really interconnected, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talk about all sorts of different types of intersections, and it's certainly true for survivors of intimate partner violence, for example, right? It's how their race plays a role in their interactions with the police, and so we want to make sure that we are approaching victim services from that type of racial justice lens, and make sure that we are not putting survivors at more harm by making them go through a criminal justice response, for
Mm-hmm.
example. We want to make sure that folks have economic security. So whether that's accelerating the fight for 15, which is the minimum wage that got passed here in Maryland a couple of years ago, but it's on a really slow scale and it's not tied to inflation. So we want to make sure that we are increasing that minimum wage faster and that we're tying it to inflation, because we know that you can't have physical safety if you're not economically independent. You
Mm-hmm.
certainly can't become economically independent if you don't have reproductive autonomy. And you're not going to have reproductive autonomy if you're not in a safe relationship. Right. So they're all intertwined. And so,
Yeah.
a lot of my background was in employment law. And so I focus a lot on the economic stability and the economic security issues. Our legal director, who's amazing, Lori Ruth, she has a background in family law. And so she does a lot of the family law and the protective orders and the kind of the criminal adjacent kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all, like I said, it's all interconnected.
Mm-hmm. Now, if someone is, interested in working with the Women's Law Center or getting your help, how do people reach out?
So the number one place I think source for referral is generally the courts. The courts will end up
Mm-hmm.
either there's self-help centers within the courts that people might go to, and they might send them to us, or the judge themselves might say, look, you don't have an attorney, I can't provide you one, because there's no right to an attorney in civil matters and protective orders. Even though it seems like it's a criminal matter, it's there's a crime has allegedly taken place, but it's still considered a civil matter, and so there's no right to an attorney, which is why organizations like ours are important.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge might say, you don't have an attorney, I'm going to give you a postponement to go find one. Here are some resources, and our name is on a list. So for folks that need that help, that's probably the biggest way. I think the other way is just Google, or friends, finding out from friends or from other legal services organizations. We get a lot of calls for stuff like landlord tenant that we don't do, and we refer them out. And I think alternatively, a lot of folks get calls from survivors or other issues that they then forward to us.
Okay. Okay. Now, the Women's Law Center is also a nonprofit. You mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
How can people get involved? How can people donate?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have a website. That's easy. That's an easy one. We have a website. It's WLCMD.org. So Women's Law Center, Maryland.org. There's a donate button. Folks can get involved. If you're an attorney, there's certain things you can do. We have a an employment law hotline that is all volunteer run. So if you have employment law background, you can sit on that. It's a really easy way to get pro bono hours. We have a judicial selections committee, which it takes an active role in making sure that our judiciary is free of bias, is free of gender discrimination. And then there's other ways, though. If you're not an attorney, we also love non-attorneys. And we have, especially during legislative session, you can sign up for our legislative alerts. And that's a really easy thing to do. And we walk you through, literally, we will tell you how to advocate on all the bills that matter to you. And so we'll send you on Mondays, we usually send a list of these are the bills we're going to be testifying on this week. And then, midweek, if there's a hearing that we think really the legislators need to hear from folks, we'll send out an alert and saying, hey, here are the people you need to call. This is what the bill number is. Here's a sample script of what to tell them. And so we can get folks to really use the grassroots, get them involved and use their ability to advocate. Because it's, the legislature hears from us all the time,
Yeah.
but when they hear from constituents, it makes a big difference to them.
Wow.
And so that's also.
Oh, go on. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say that's also on our website. If you go to our website and it's like, you can sign up for newsletters or whatever, and then you click on that and it gives you the option to sign up for our legislative alerts.
Wow. I had no idea you could do all of this. This is great.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yes.
Okay.
We count on folks to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll definitely get involved. That sounds great.
Yeah, I love it.
So one last question for you, and it's a big one.
Okay.
What do you hope for the future of women's reproductive rights?
Oh gosh. Well, for women's reproductive rights, I just want it to be the same as everybody else's reproductive rights, right? I want women's healthcare to be considered healthcare. I want abortion to be considered healthcare. And I think that's really important. We've carved it out somehow, but it's not. It is healthcare, and it needs to be treated as such.
I love it. I agree.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, talking with us and educating us about the laws and how we can get involved. If someone, you said you can reach out on the website. If someone wanted to, directly, get to you and ask you a specific question, is your email on the website as well?
It's not, but I'm happy to share.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to share my email address. It's msiri, so M as in Michelle, Siri, it's S as in Sam, IRI @WLCMD.org.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Absolutely.
I appreciate this so much. I learned a lot. I'm excited to get involved.
That's great. Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Your blog, or is it a vlog? Gosh, I'm showing my age.
No, it's a video series. But I also do have a blog, and I would love to have a blog. I interview women who are successful in their jobs and stuff. That'd be cool.
Yeah. But I checked it out and it's just amazing. I love the different stories and perspectives that you were sharing. And thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of it.
Yeah, I would love to have you back again, especially if we have a change, if it gets lots to do.
Yeah, I mean, so, we're going to be back this January 100%, advocating for the constitutional amendment. It did not get passed this past legislative session. It went through the House and the Senate decided, oh, you're overreacting. We don't really need it. Well, now it's clear that we do. So we're going to bring that back. And I think this is really an opportunity for Maryland to go on the not the attack necessarily, but be more aggressive in expanding access in Maryland.
Yeah, exactly.
We've done a great job so far, but there's still room to grow.
Yeah, I'm happy to live in the state.
Yeah, absolutely. But we need to be ready for all those folks coming in.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Michelle. Well, I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Take care.